Nelson Harris, who is the president of Tasty Baking Company, president and chief executive officer, is going to tell you about his career. Hi, Nelson. How are you?
Hi, Glendora. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Could you tell the boys and girls something about Tasty Baking Company?
Yes, Tasty Baking Company is a 75-year-old company which was started in Philadelphia in 1914, and it produces a line of snack cakes and pies under the trademark Tasty Cake.
Tasty Cake, boy. And what does a president and chief executive officer do besides eat all those wonderful products?
And Glendora, I do eat them.
I bet you I would too.
My basic responsibilities are to oversee the operation of the company, which includes the production of the cakes, which includes the marketing of the cakes, the actual sale. It includes then the accounting for the cakes. In fact, in the process of operating a company such as ours and many others, it includes almost every discipline or almost every vocation you can think of.
That makes it fun. You're into everything.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that makes it fun. Nelson, tell us what your jobs were. Just list them for us, if you were, until you became, until you became the president and chief executive officer.
Sure, Glendora. I am a lawyer by background.
No, really? Where'd you go to school?
I went to undergraduate. I went to the University of Pennsylvania and attended the Wharton School.
Wow, that's a great school.
I then went on to Temple University School of Law.
My.
And went ahead, took the bar, and was admitted as a lawyer.
Really?
And one of my earliest relationships with Tasty Baking Company, they were a client of the firm that I was with. And I think as to developing options in life, a legal background is an excellent preparation.
A legal background is an excellent preparation. And boys and girls, I want you to know that Wharton School, that's a top-class school. And so is Temple University, and so is Pennsylvania, right? You got a terrific education. So then what happened?
Well, I was 32 years old, and I received a call from the president. I had been working rather regularly with the various executives of Tasty Baking Company, and he offered me the job of secretary and treasurer of the company.
Wow.
So I joined the company. That was in 1959. The following year, I became a vice president, and then in 1979, I became the president and chief executive officer, a job which I've now had for 10 years.
Oh, that's great. So you see, he was doing his work well, and the president was impressed, and he made him secretary and treasurer. Now, Nelson Harris, what advice would you give a youngster to start off on such an interesting career as yours?
I think the most important advice I would give any youngster is to set an objective, set a goal, and then go ahead and achieve that goal. And it's not always the brightest person or the best dressed or the most articulate person who succeeds. It's the person who is best prepared, the person that's frankly done their homework.
Really?
Because they have the facts.
Really? So always be prepared.
Absolutely.
Semper Paratus. What's that, the Marines or the Boy Scouts? Which?
I think that's the Marines.
Okay. Well, I think that's great. And then getting that first job, Nelson?
Well, actually, I got the first job that really in the law firm.
Yeah.
Because I had done a good job in law school. I had not necessarily been, as I said earlier, the brightest, but I was certainly one of the hardest working.
Yeah, that's nice.
And that's what really opened the door.
Really?
And then I think doing a little bit extra.
Yes.
If I were going to put it in a sort of I basically found ways to enrich my job.
Oh, nice.
And I think that in your life, if you can not do just what is asked of you 9 to 5, but if you can find ways to do a little more, to enrich what you're doing, that will then even create greater opportunities for you. And the great benefit is that it enriches your life too.
Nelson Harris, that's terrific. Underline, enrich your work. Nelson Harris, President and Chief Executive Officer at Tasty Baking Company. Nelson, thanks for being on a chat with Glendora.
Glendora, thank you very much for including me.
Yeah, you always seem to have a good time. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Glendora.
Who is the chairman of Coates & Clark, is going to help you choose a career. Hi, Robert. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you.
Oh, that's good. Robert, will you tell the boys and girls about Coates & Clark?
Yes, it is a company that has been engaged primarily in the sewing thread trade for about 175 years.
Wow.
It got its start really thanks to the Emperor Napoleon. At that era, all sewing thread in the world was made from silk, the majority of it produced in continental Europe. And with the issuance of the Berlin decrees, the export of silk was prohibited from Europe, and thus a substitute had to be found. Both the Coates and the Clark families started using a cotton processing system to produce a substitute silk sewing thread. Obviously, over the years, silk has become far too expensive, and so cotton has retained its position in the world until such time as synthetics came along, and now the majority of sewing threads in the world are produced from one kind of synthetic fiber or another.
Oh, Mr. Laidlaw, would you tell the boys and girls what your work as chairman consists of?
Well, that's a kind of difficult thing. It's about the same definition of responsibilities as the office boy, and that is that you have to undertake and look after every single event that comes down the pike every single day.
Yeah.
In addition to that, of course, one has the responsibility for longer range planning, and in today's turbulent world, that is an extremely difficult task.
Oh, that must be pretty interesting, though.
Yes, it's interesting, but it's also high risk and requires a very great deal of research and refinement of knowledge to decide which way the company should go in the future. Obviously, one major mistake, and it can be fatal to the future operations of the company.
Mr. Laidlaw, could you just tell the boys and girls what your jobs were until you became chairman of Coates & Clark?
Yes, indeed. Actually, John, this is an international company I work for, and I have worked in 5 different countries, being in England, Italy, Mexico, Canada, and the United States over the last 30 years. Obviously, it's been very interesting, too.
Oh, you betcha. What advice would you give a youngster to start on such a nice career today?
Well, the hardest thing for any youngster, really, is to pick up enough basic knowledge. I know when I was very young, I had an absolute loath of staying in school and wanted to get on with the world. But really, it's a question that is like building a building. You have to decide how high the building is going to be before you dig the foundations. And the foundations to a future are a good education. And so I cannot stress highly enough to youngsters today, get a good education.
Very good. And next step?
And the next step is, after you get the job, continue your education. We live in a very, very changing world, and keeping up with the changes is absolutely vital. Keeping up with understanding, developing your new thoughts.
Robert Laidlaw, you were wonderful to help the boys and girls. I know you're busy. We certainly appreciate it.
Okay, glad to have had the opportunity to talk.
Thanks again, and good luck to you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Mr. Jack Whiteman, who is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Empire Southwest, is going to tell you about his career and help you. Hi, Jack. How are you?
Good morning, Glendora. How are you?
Oh, very good, thanks. Could you tell the boys and girls what Empire Southwest is, Jack?
Well, basically, we're a heavy machinery company. We are a dealer for Caterpillar tractors and their kind of equipment. In the state of Arizona, part of Old Mexico, and part of California.
Do you find the work very interesting, Jack?
Very interesting because of with, the people we buy from, and especially the people that we sell to.
Really? And what's it like to be a chairman and chief executive officer? What do you do?
Well, I don't have to do very much if I've done my job right to begin with.
I see. You oversee the whole thing and make sure the team wins. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, where were you born?
I was born in Yakima, Washington. My father was a wheat farmer.
Really? And
Grew up in Walla Walla, Washington, not far from there. And went into business after I was out of college.
what college you go to, Jack? What?
University of Washington a long time ago.
What did you take?
Well, I was, believe it or not, a political science major, a
Really?
philosophy major, and nearly a literature major.
Really? And now, a list for the boys and girls of what your jobs were. Just make a list if you were up until the time you became chairman and chief executive officer of Empire Southwest.
I first went to work, I took a summertime job selling Caterpillar tractors to farmers and taking in trade horses and mules. That's kind of an odd job anymore because there are not very many horses and mules left. But I soon, after about a year and a half, I left that job and bought a business of my own. Started one with a partner, a friend of mine. And after about 10 years, I was able to put together a company to buy the Caterpillar dealer that was in eastern Oregon at that time, and that was 1950. Now, I've been a Caterpillar and John Deere dealer ever since that time.
Oh, really? That's quite a career. Jack, what advice would you give a boy or girl to start out today?
Well, the best advice I know to give you, to give anyone, is to really understand the English language very well. If you go to school, study hard English. You say, well, I already know English. No, very few people know English. It's difficult. It is full of all sorts of different meanings. And whatever you do in this life, I don't care if you're an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or a ditch digger, you must talk with people and communicate. And the best way to do it is with English. So learn how to write well and how to speak well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Boys and girls, Jack Whiteman, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Empire Southwest, thank you so much for helping the boys and girls, Jack, on a chat. Girls, Mr. Willard Garvey, who is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Garvey Industries, is going to share his career with you. Hi, Willard. How are you?
Fine, Glendora. How are you?
Good, thanks. Willard, would you tell the boys and girls what Garvey Industries is and does?
Well, Garvey Industries is a family business that we split out from our other family in 1972. We're diversified and we're fairly comprehensive. We have 7 divisions. We have about 20-some companies, and we're goal-oriented. We're private enterprise-oriented. We are seeking to total community and citizen development program to try to improve our profits and our environment. Our slogan is GO, which is Garvey Organization, which is Golden Opportunities and Goals and Objectives.
Oh, that's nice. And as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, what does your work consist of?
My work consists of trying to get good people and work with them to see that they can achieve their goals and make the rest of us look good.
You like it a lot, do you?
I enjoy it a great deal. If there was anything I like to do more, I would do it.
See that, boys and girls? All these chairman and chief executive officers, they all enjoy their work. Willard, you were born where?
Colby. I lived in Colby, but the family was in Colorado Springs because they had a hospital. So we moved to Colby and to Wichita, where I've been for the last 60 years. Travel from here.
And you went to school where?
University of Michigan was my alma mater in 41.
And your major?
Economics.
Economics. Is that a good background?
I feel it is, although it's I feel that about 99% of the people have no economic understanding, so I'd like to see it expanded and more people go into it so they can understand how the system works.
Could you just briefly list what your jobs were from the time you got out of Michigan until you became Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Garvey Industries?
Well, number one, before the war, I built affordable housing. We built some $300 homes here in our community for war workers, and then I went to the war for 4 years. In Europe, I ended up in Berlin as one of the officers at the Potsdam Conference with a front row seat. And then I came back and took up one of our family businesses called Builders Incorporated, and have used the home ownership motif as our foundation ever since. We launched for the 10 years after the war, too, we built about 10% of the homes here. And then I was active in both the Young Presidents Organization and the National Association of Home Builders, and launched a World Homes program to build low-cost housing in we were built in about 28 countries, and it was a very successful program through the 50s and 60s.
Isn't that nice? Now, Willard Garvey, what advice would you give a youngster to get started on such a career today?
Well, I think the advice to young people is the attitude that problems are opportunities, that most people, and the greatest opportunity to me is to privatize government, since most people realize that government waste is our biggest problem.
Ooh, okay.
And I had a method of how to do it. It's personal initiative and entrepreneurship, and first, to do it, number one, you go into government at any level, and number two, you figure out how to provide the better service for less money privately, and then number three, you test out your idea until it's successful, and then you can repeat or franchise your success in other communities and make yourself a fortune.
I think that's terrific. I think that's great. Boys and girls, Willard Garvey, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Garvey Industries, on a chat with Glendora. Thanks a lot, Willard.
Thank you, Glendora. Thank you, boys and girls.
Bye-bye. Boys and girls, here's Dr. Ken Lipke, who is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer and founder of Gibraltar Steel, and he's going to help you choose a career. Hi, Dr. Ken. How are you this morning?
Hi, Glendora. How are you this morning?
Wonderful, thanks. Dr. Ken, will you tell the boys and girls about Gibraltar Steel, please?
Well, Gibraltar is a dream that I had a number of years ago to build my own business. And so I looked around, and the only business that I could buy was a steel business, which is a very difficult business. It was doing $9 million a year in 1972. This year, we will do over $150 million.
Wow! Wasn't that wonderful? And as Chairman and President and Chief Executive Officer and founder, what does your work consist of, Dr. Ken?
Well, my biggest job is going out there with a cheerful, positive attitude to inspire first myself, and then my customers to buy our products, and then our workers to make the most excellent products there are. And because we've done that so successfully, that's why we've grown from 9 to 150 million. We found a need, and we fill it, and we work at it every day. And the key word there to success at our company, or really in anybody's career, is work.
And positive and cheerful. Dr. Lipke, you were born where?
In Buffalo, New York.
Were you really? And you went to school there?
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am.
And where'd you go to college?
Pardon?
Where did you go to college?
Davenport, Iowa. Actually, I'm a graduate, and I practiced chiropractic for nearly 20 years before becoming an industrialist.
Is that so? Why, that's wonderful. Tell the boys and girls, if you could, just sort of list the things that you did before you founded Gibraltar Steel.
Well, I started out, I was going to be a musician. I was going to be a great trumpet player. And I did have a reasonably successful career in music, but I then moved on and was in architecture and engineering. And I was going to college nights when I developed a very serious vision and hearing problem.
Oh.
And it was a chiropractor that cleared the problem up. And it so impressed me that I went out, and my first major career was spending 20 years as an outstandingly successful chiropractor. Then after that, I went into the investment banking business simultaneously because I had been so successful in chiropractic. And then I decided I wanted to build a family business for myself and my 5 children. And that's how I happened to buy a sick and ailing and dying steel company. and turned it around with the cheerfulness and the positive mental attitude that this program is all about. And it works. It works.
Bless your heart. Dr. Ken, will you give the boys and girls some idea how they could get started on a successful career today?
Yeah, it's I've just turned 60, and I look back now and what were the what were the principles that made me successful and Gibraltar successful, and frankly, hundreds of other outstanding successes that I've gotten to know in my career. And I've boiled it down to 3 simple things that make for success. Number 1, the thoughts you think. Number 2, the people you meet. And number 3, the things you do. You notice I emphasize you in each of those statements, because if you think big thoughts, set big goals, have big dreams, that's the kind of success you're going to have. If you hang around with bums, that's the kind of people you associate with, you're going to become a bum, chances are. But on the other hand, you seek out the successes and the winners of life, good chance you'll become one of them. And then, of course, the things you do. If you are always getting involved in big, lofty dreams and goals and projects and doing good and wonderful things, chances are that's the kind of life you will have. So the thoughts you think, the people you meet, the things you do will determine, I guarantee you, the kind of life you're going to have in your future.
Terrific, and we're associated with you, and we feel all the better for it. Dr. Ken Lipke, Chairman and President, CEO and founder of Gibraltar Steel. Thanks for helping the boys and girls on a chat with Glendora. And girls, Dominic T. Genuardi, who is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Genuardi Supermarkets, is going to tell you how he did it, so maybe you can have a good career too. Hi, Dom.
Hello, how are you, Glendora?
Good, thanks, Dom. Would you just tell the boys and girls about Genuardi Supermarkets?
Well, Genuardi Supermarkets is a family-owned business. We all started selling vegetables door to door, my brothers and I, to support the large family that my father and mother. Thank you very much.
Is it fun being the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of such a successful chain as that?
Well, it's not all that bad, because we have a lot of fine people working for us, a lot of young people who have a desire to get ahead, and we have plenty of opportunities, and of course they're willing to work. They do a real fine job, and we're very proud of them.
Oh, bless your heart. Don, what advice would you give a youngster today to start on a career? You're on the inside of the retail grocery business. How do you think they should get started on their career?
Well, I think basically every child there are so many opportunities in this country of ours, and I think basically dedication to their job and working hard. We can't achieve everything overnight that we want without working for it. And I think if you work for it and thrive and be honest and treat people the way you want to be treated yourself, and be fair about things, and opportunities, and of course they're willing to work, they do a real fine job, and we're very proud of them.
Oh, bless your heart. Don, what advice would you give? On their career?
Well, I think basically every child there are so many opportunities in this country of ours, and I think basically dedication to their job and working hard. We can't achieve everything overnight that we want without working for it, and I think if you work for it and thrive and be honest and treat people the way you want to be treated yourself, and be fair about things, and the way you want to be treated yourself.
Oh, that's nice. It's the old golden rule, isn't it, Dominic?
It still is as good today as it was hundreds of years ago.
In your last 30 seconds, Dom, is there anything that you wanted to tell the kids?
Well, I just think that everybody should have look at the beautiful blue sky up there. There are a lot of opportunities, and it's not going to be handed to you. You got to go out and work for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Dominic Genuardi, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Genuardi Supermarkets. Thank you so much for being on a chat with Glendora and helping the kids. I know you like them because you wouldn't have taken the time for them.
Thank you very much. Nice being with you.
Oh, you're welcome, Dom. Bye. Hi, folks. Welcome to Glendora, a cheerful look at life. And this is Carmino Cat. Remember when he was a baby and he was so light? Now he weighs about 10 pounds. You're like Garfield. Say hi to everybody, Carmino. Oh, that felt great. Now, Pete says he doesn't know what it is that makes their meeting so dull. But whatever it is, it always works. And Oscar says that he stood up to the microphone. He says, I'm very happy to be here tonight, having satisfied the two philosophical requirements of the program chairman. Number one, he believes in free speech, and number two, he believes in free speeches. And you do not have to, if you can speak your mind, if you're not afraid to speak your mind, you know, without fear of reprisal, then you know the difference between a democracy and marriage. A good speech, in order to be immortal, does not have to be eternal. Now, John is a forthright speaker. Every fourth word is right. And when the college athlete was making out his application and they said, name your bank, he put down Piggy. The college athlete, the athletic office had 2 seats, and they told the sports fan that we have the last 2 seats available, but they're standing room. But the sports fan, he says, I don't mind as long as they're together. Bob got a new pair of skis, and he got a very interesting pamphlet with the skis. It said how to convert the skis into splints. A sports fan wrote the ticket office, send us 2 tickets, and if the game is good, we'll send you a check. So the ticket office wrote back, send us a check, and if the check is good, we'll send you the 2 tickets. A referee describes a sports fan as somebody who sits in the bleachers and yells that the referee missed a call in the center of the interior line, and then the fan goes out to the parking lot and can't find his car. Now, the basketball coach was talking to his team, and he says, now the trouble with officials is that they don't care who wins. And how can you call an athlete who's earning $3 million a free agent? And an NBA player was being interviewed by somebody and was asked, which do you think is the worse detriment to a basketball player, would it be ignorance or apathy? And the basketball player replied, I don't know and I don't care. Now, Ed said that his team lifted him up on their shoulders and walked him off the court. And his girlfriend said, that must have been a moment of great pride. And Ed says, well, not really. They told me not to come back until next season. These athletes were sitting around in the locker room after the game, and one athlete says, prestige is when the fans come up and ask you for your autograph. And the second athlete says, no, prestige is going to the White House and the president sees you and says, hi, Bill, how's the wife and family? And the third athlete says, no, prestige is being in the Vatican. You're talking to the Pope. They take the pictures. They come out in the newspaper later, and people say, who's that man with Williams, that man with the beanie? Now, Diane was talking to a basketball player, and she said to him, gee, you smell good. What do you have on? And the basketball player said, clean socks. Tom was trying to impress his girl, and she said, when you were in college, did you play sports? Did you play football? And he said, yep. And she says, were you a fullback? And he says, no. She said, well, were you a halfback? And he said, no. And then she says, well, were you a quarterback? And he says, no. And she says, well, what were you? And Tom says, well, I was a drawback. Now, it was during the game, and the referee looked up into the bleachers, and he saw a woman being carried out on the stretcher, so the referee said to the coach, what happened, a heart attack? And the coach says, no, you called one right, and she fainted. Harold watches too many sports. On television, he watches baseball, and he watches football, and he watches basketball. His mother-in-law says that he watches so many sports on TV that he is suffering from athlete's seat. And poor Olivia said that her son had to give up a very promising career because of fallen arches. And Mary said, oh, that's too bad. Was he an athlete? And Olivia says, no, he was an architect. The springtime of the year is the time of the year that the economy suffers from three major surpluses. Three major surpluses. One would be corn, one would be wheat, and the last one would be Girl Scout cookies. This is Glendora, a cheerful look at life. Now keep the courage flaming. George Thomas Maloney, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of C.R. Bard, Inc., is going to help you with his career. Hi, George. How are you?
Good, thank you, Glendora.
George, would you just tell the boys and girls what C.R. Bard, Inc. is?
We're a medical manufacturer of medical devices.
For medical devices, and you sell them to doctors?
We sell them to doctors and largely into hospitals.
Hospitals, right.
But used by doctors and nurses.
And what's the fun part of being the President and Chief Executive Officer, George?
Working with people and seeing people grow and producing good results.
Oh, yes, you enjoy that a lot, right?
And yes, and helping people, patients get better.
That's the nice part, huh? George, you were born where?
Philadelphia, North Philly, Tacony.
And you went to school there?
No, well, I started grammar school, but we moved when I was young and youngster, and moved up to Long Island, where I went to high school at Sewanaka High School in Florham Park.
That's a nice area. And then where'd you go to college?
Went to Siena College outside Albany, New York, in a town called Loudonville. Siena might be known to a lot of kids. Last year in the National Collegiate Athletic basketball, they were the measles team. They in the first round they knocked off Stanford, and so that was their claim to fame.
Really, Siena. I know Siena, George, because I was on TV up there, WRGB Channel 6 in Schenectady. And of course, we had a lot to do with Siena over there in Loudonville. It's a great school.
Thank you. I think so also.
Yeah, great people. Siena and Union, they're both up there.
Right.
George, what did you take as an undergraduate?
I had a BS in economics.
In economics. That's a good background, is it?
Well, suited me well.
It did you well. Then just list for the boys and girls one after another what your jobs were until you became president and CEO of CS Bard.
Well, when I left college, I did a little tour in the Army and artillery in Korea, and then when I got out of Korea in '55, I started with General Motors as a college graduate trainee. And then right after that, I went into as a labor relations representative for General Motors. And in that job, I was in that job about a year and a half, and I learned that there's more than one side of a story. I left General Motors and joined Bard in 1959 when Bard was doing just around $9 million in sales, so they were a peanut in comparison to the General Motors Corporation.
Everybody is.
But I started off as a salesman and worked my way up through sales and marketing.
I think that's great. I think that's terrific. Now you're the president and CEO. What advice would you give a youngster to start on a career today in today's world?
Well, first of all, in any career, I think you have to work hard. I think there's only one way to success, whatever success is, but that's defined differently by different people. But I think you have to work hard. I think one of the keys of my success has been the fact that I picked a great industry. I started off in the automobile industry, and I loved it, but I was fortunate enough to switch to the medical industry, which turned out to be a great growth industry. So I've given advice before to kids and say you could be an A player in a C industry and you'll do okay, but you could be a B player in an A industry and do extremely well, which has happened to me.
Yeah, that's right. So you can be a B player in an A industry and do extremely well.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. George Maloney, President and CEO of C.R. Bard Incorporated, we thank you so much for helping out the kids on a chat with Glendora.
Well, thank you, Glendora. It's a pleasure.
Boys and girls, Mr. Lawrence A. Bossity, who is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of General Electric Financial Services, is here today to help you with a career. Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you this morning, Glenn?
Oh, good, thanks. Lawrence, would you just tell the boys and girls what General Electric Financial Services consists of?
Well, it consists of three corporations, GE Capital, which is headquartered in Stamford, Connecticut, Kidder Peabody in New York City, and a reinsurance company called Employers Reinsurance in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what do? They help people finance buying businesses and things like that?
Well, yes, they do. The GE Capital provides all type of financial help to both consumers and industrial customers across the world.
Oh, that must be pretty interesting. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, do you enjoy that work a lot?
Yes, I think it's a very stimulating and fulfilling job.
Yes, I bet it's interesting all the time. Mr. Lawrence A. Bossity, you were born where?
In Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Whoopee! That's a nice place, right in the Berkshires.
That is correct.
There's a General Electric plant up there, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And then, did you go to school nearby?
I went to Colgate University in Hamilton, New York.
Yes, that's very good. And what did you take as an undergraduate?
I was a major in economics.
In economics. Is that a good background?
Yes, I think it is. I think it gives you a good liberal arts education with a bent for business, and it served me well.
Yes, it did indeed. Now, just tell the boys and girls what your jobs were until you became Chairman and Chief Executive Officer.
Well, I had a number of jobs, frankly, of significance. I was with GE's corporate audit staff, and then I went to GE Capital in a financial role. And ultimately, I ran GE Capital before taking my assignment that I have now.
You didn't happen to start out with GE in Pittsfield, did you?
No, I didn't.
Uh-huh. And then, last question, Mr. Bossity, if you'd be so kind as to tell the boys and girls how they could get a start today on such an interesting career.
Well, I think that they have to work hard in school, and progress to the college of their choice and have a purpose to their life. Do everything they can as well as they can, and I'm sure that opportunities will come before them, and they'll have a successful career.
And education's pretty important, isn't it?
Absolutely critical.
Yeah, critical. Okay, anything else you want to say to the youth while they're right here?
No, except to encourage them to stay in school, work hard, and dream in terms of what they can be.
Isn't that nice to dream? Mr. Lawrence A. Bossity, boys and girls, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, GE Financial Services, a chat with Glendora. Thanks so much, Lawrence.
Okay, Glenn.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Boys and girls, I'd like to have you meet Mr. Roger Regelbrugger. And Roger is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Georgetown Industries. Hi, Roger. How are you? Thanks. I'm well. Roger, would you tell the boys and girls what Georgetown Industries is?
Well, Georgetown Industries is a diversified company. We're in the steel business. We produce steel and, of course, sell it. We're in the wire business, and we're also in the lumber business, and we're in the retail business. Those are separate aspects of our company. Georgetown Industries is the parent company of several subsidiaries.
It is. Roger, do you enjoy your work as President of Chief Executive Officer?
I do very much.
Well, what's it consist of?
Well, I guess, first of all, as I said, that's where the buck stops, but generally we get involved in all of the major aspects of the planning of our business, the strategies behind our activities, but we don't get as involved in the day-to-day work in each one of the subsidiaries. However, we do have meetings with our subsidiary managements regularly to review their operations and their progress. Beyond that, we have a lot of contacts with government. We have contacts with competition as well as customers and with the market in general. And as we look at possible acquisitions, we have contacts with other companies that might be totally foreign to us.
Oh, Roger, where were you born?
I was born and raised in Belgium.
In Belgium, and you went to school there?
I went to school there as well as in the United States.
Huh? And what did you take in college?
Well, I became a mechanical engineer in Belgium.
Oh.
And then I became an industrial engineer at General Motors Institute in Flint, Michigan.
Good for you.
School that you might not know. And then I got a master's degree in engineering from Michigan State University.
Well, that's wonderful. Roger, what were your jobs? Just list them rather briefly, if you could, for the children up until the time you became president and CEO of Georgetown.
Well, before I became president here, I was executive vice president, which is, all in the same company, and we were then largely in steel. I've been president now for more than 10 years. Before that time, I had been vice president in charge of international operations of a company called Coring Company in Milwaukee. That's Koehring. That's heavy machinery and equipment, which we produced and sold all over the world. So before that, I worked for General Motors for a while.
You did. Roger, now with your last 30 seconds, could you tell the boys and girls how to get started on such a nice career as yours?
Well, I would think that the most important thing is to get a good education, as good as you can get it. That means whatever you and your parents and anybody else that wants to help you can do. That's the first thing. The second thing, for sure, is to have a lot of fun in your work. And that means you got to think that you got to be interested in what you do. You got to understand why it's necessary for the company, why it's important. Understand what other people do. And somehow, by questioning and asking questions and so forth, show that you're really interested.
Oh, very nice.
Work hard.
Work hard. Roger Regelbrugger, President and CEO of Georgetown Industries, on a chat with Glendora. Thank you very much, Roger.
Thank you, Glendora.
Boys and girls, I'd like to have you meet Mr. James Garvey, who is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the JG Corporation. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Just fine, Glendora.
Jim, would you just tell the boys and girls a little bit about the JG Corporation?
Well, I asked my father once what he thought I should do, and he said, do what you like to do, where you like to do it, with the people you like to do it with.
Very good.
So I have come up with JG Corporation, which is a group of family businesses that are in agriculture, ranching, petroleum exploration, and urban development.
Really, that's everything just about. Jim, as a chairman and chief executive officer, tell the boys and girls what that's like to see if they'd like to aim for that height.
Well, it's a matter of being fully engrossed in what you're doing and trying to delegate and see that the people who are in charge of the various divisions do the job that you expect them to do.
I see. And so make the team win, right?
Right, and actually what I'm operating on is what a colonel told me when I was being trained in World War II in officers' candidate school, that tell your men what you want them to do, and they would like to do what you want them to do, but then you have to see that they have done it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that sums up the supervisory interest of an operating officer.
James, you were born where?
Born
Yes, you were. Where were you born?
Colby, Kansas.
In Colby, Kansas. And where did you grow up and go to school?
Wichita, Kansas.
Uh-huh. And what did you take in school?
I took liberal arts, military science, and history minors.
You liked it, didn't you?
Yes, and my major was English.
English?
Yes.
Wow, that's nice. Jimmy. JG, James Garvey. Tell the boys and girls, please, just list for them what your jobs were up until the time you organized JG Corp.
Well, of course, I worked for Uncle Sam for about 3.5 years, and finished college after that, and went out to take care of our farms and ranches in western Kansas and eastern Colorado. And then I was put in charge of a small country grain system and a little oil jobbing company.
I see.
And then when I moved to Fort Worth, it was in terminal grain operations. And since we liked it in Fort Worth, we got into urban development.
Urban development. Jim, what advice would you give a youngster to start a career today?
Do what you like to do, with people you like to do it with, where you like to do it.
And pass that down from generation to generation. The service can be a very good place, can it?
Yeah, well, if you like it. And if you don't like it, you should find something else.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get into the service, as you have to for 2, 3, 4 years, it can really help you a lot, right?
The service offers a lot of educational advantages if you want to take advantage of them.
Very good.
And especially in technologies, most of which are now coming on stream, is in the VCR, the television, all kinds of things, of new things we've never even dreamed of 30 years ago.
Yeah, makes it exciting. James Garvey, you were really nice to help the boys and girls on a chat with Glendora. We appreciate that a lot.
Well, we're looking forward to a generation of young people that want to do what they want to do, where they want to do it, with people who like to do it.
Very good, Jim Garvey. Thank you.
Thank you, Glendora.
You're welcome. Bye. Boys and girls, Mr. Harry M. Conger, who is the chairman and chief executive officer of Homestake Mining, a Fortune 500 company, is going to tell you about his career to help you out. Hi, Harry. How are you?
Good morning, Glendora. I'm just fine, thank you.
Good for you, Harry. Tell the boys and girls what Homestake Mining is.
Homestake Mining Company is one of the country's largest gold mining companies, and it was established back in 1875 and has been operating the Great Homestake Mine in South Dakota ever since then.
Oh, interesting. What's the job of a chairman and a chief executive officer like, to see if the boys and girls would aim for that?
Well, the job that I have in running Homestake Mining Company is one in which we try to coordinate the activities and efforts of mineral scientists, geologists, mining engineers, metallurgists in discovering and developing new mineral deposits so that we can produce the metals and minerals that the world needs.
Harry, did you ever discover gold?
I haven't personally, but the people under my direction have discovered gold, and that is quite exciting.
Oh, what a thrill that must be. You were born where, Harry Conger?
I was born in Seattle, Washington.
Uh-huh, and you went to school there?
Went to school, the public school system, not in Seattle, but in Yakima, Washington, in the center of the state.
Yeah.
And then went to college and graduated from college at Colorado School of Mines in Colorado.
That was a pretty good major for what you turned out to do, right?
Well, that's the cart happened to be behind the horse in my case. I knew what I wanted to do and was able to select a school to prepare me for that.
Yeah, that's great. What helped you decide that when you were young?
Well, that's a difficult decision, or a difficult question to ask, because none of these things for young people are crystal clear.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my case, but I knew I wanted to be an engineer of some kind, and after looking at the various brochures on engineering and what those career paths are, I thought mining was most nearly what I would like to do.
That's great, and you made such a success of it, and I think that's sort of critical. You got to like it to make a success of it, right?
That's the thing I think is most important, Glendora. Two factors in selecting a career, I think. One is just what you said. You must like what you're doing. And the second thing is, I think you need to have some natural talent for what it is you've selected. Then you're going to like it more, and you're going to be more successful at it.
Yeah, very good. Harry, just as your last 30 seconds, would you list for the boys and girls what your jobs were until you became Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Homestake?
Yes, of course, when I was going to college, I had a lot of different jobs in the mines to earn money to go to school, and then when I got out of school with a degree, I was a junior mine engineer at a copper mine in Arizona.
Boy, you got an early start.
Then I moved, after 7 years there, I became a foreman there at that mine, out in the mine, and then moved to Southern California out in the Mojave Desert at an iron ore mine, then moved to Canada and ran coal mines, to Southern Illinois to run some more coal mines, and then here to San Francisco to join Homestake and run these gold mines, this gold mining company.
I think it's terrific. I think it's a great career. Boys and girls, Harry M. Conger, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Homestake Mining, on a chat with Glendora. Harry, thanks a lot.
Nice to be with you, Glendora.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boys and girls, Mr. Hal Ross, Chairman of the Board of Allied Old English, is here today to help you choose a career. Hi, Hal. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, good, thanks. Al, would you just tell the boys and girls about Allied Old English?
Allied Old English was started back in 1950. We're a corporation manufacturing a line of Chinese condiments. Was originated way back in 1940 under the name of Allied Molasses. We changed the name from Allied Molasses to Allied Old English because the definition was better.
Definition's better. And then don't you make jams now also?
The manufacturers of Sorrel Ridge.
Sorrel Ridge.
Sorrel Ridge, a spreadable fruit, 100% fruit. No sugar, no corn syrup, nothing but fruit. Fruit only.
Are you connected with Old English Furniture Polish?
No.
No, you're absolutely not. Now, Hal, as the chairman, you founded the company, did you?
I originally founded the company back in 1939.
I think that's great. And now as chairman, what do you do, Hal?
Now I just concur with my son as to making any dramatic decisions that he might want to make.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And your son is the chief executive officer?
President and Chief Executive Officer.
And his name is what?
Fred Ross.
Fred Ross. Now, Hal, would you just tell the boys and girls where you were born? Yeah, wonderful. I love Brooklyn. And did you go to school there?
Public school.
Yep.
And I dropped out of high school in the second year.
You did?
My parents didn't have the money to
You had to go to work.
support the family.
So you had to go to work, right?
I had to go to work, right?
Yeah. And Hal, tell the boys and girls about your career, if you would.
Well, it was a career of hard work, good thinking, an opportunity, and an opportunist. Whenever something came along, I went back to school from studying food chemistry.
Oh, good.
And I engaged in everything that pertained to food. Our main line for years, and still part of our main line, is Chinese condiments.
Chinese condiment.
I originated duck sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Sour duck sauce.
Yep.
We're the first ones to manufacture a line of domestic and not synthetic, but not real fermented soy sauce.
And we make a line of other Chinese condiments, hoisin sauce, teriyaki sauce, etc.
So your career was starting Allied in 1950 and making it grow and making it succeed.
Right.
Yeah? Wonderful. Hal, with your last 30 seconds, would you tell the boys and girls how they might get started on such a career as that and maybe find an opportunity and start their own company someday?
Sure will. If you have an idea, children, and a dream, and you plan it well enough and you work hard enough, it'll 99% of the time it'll come true.
Really? And watch for the opportunity?
You gotta watch for the opportunity and take advantage of it when it comes.
Hal, how did you happen to choose the Chinese condiments? You saw an opportunity in the marketplace?
There was an opportunity because back in 1939 and 40, the Japanese was at war with China and there was no Oriental food or Oriental sauces coming.
Oh.
So there was a need for a domestic sauce, and I started it.
Oh, that's terrific. Made a success of it. Mr. Hal Ross, how nice you were to help us out this morning on a chat with Glendora. We certainly appreciate it.
Very good.
Bye, Hal.
Nice talking to you. Good luck, children.
Thank you. Just as soon as he buys them, they swing low. And Paul says that he could be a rich man by now. In the 1970s, he had an opportunity to invest in Federal Express, but he didn't do it because he thought that they were a fly-by-night company. And John, who is a stockbroker, says that you would be amazed. He says how many people drive to his office in a Lincoln to get advice from a man who takes the bus to work. And Harry said he has a neighbor who is very high up in a financial firm in downtown, in the financial district. And so Harry said to him one day, "What's the latest dope on Wall Street?" And Ed says, "My son, who's just gone to work for the company." And Harry says that his stockbroker gets very sentimental at Christmas time. He hangs mistletoe over the door so that his clients can kiss their money goodbye. Now, vacation time is that time of year, folks, when Americans who have mastered the Rubik Cube, then they go on to the greatest challenge of all time, and that's how to refold a road map. A very famous author was asked by a reporter, "What do you consider your best work of fiction?" And the author thought very quickly, and he says, "I would say my income tax." Diane said to her mother, "Mommy, my Sunday school teacher says that we come from dust and everybody returns to dust." And her mother says, "That's right." And Diane says, "Well, I just looked underneath the couch," and she says, "Somebody is either coming or going." Bill probably feels the way you do. Bill says it's getting harder and harder to support this government in the style to which it has become accustomed. And the boss says that at least Dick is honest, because when he made out his 1040 form, he put down half of his income as unearned. Income tax time is that time of the year when poor people wish they were rich so they wouldn't have to pay any taxes. And it is estimated that by April 15th, 60 million income tax forms will be filed, not counting those which will be chiseled. Now, Sid says he wanted to know, after April 15th, is there anybody in the United States who has any money? The answer is yes, Henry R. Block. It's very hard to believe, isn't it, folks, that this country was founded on the basis of avoiding taxes. And Dorothy says she just came from a teenage wedding, and she said the couple was so young that half of their wedding gifts were manufactured by Mattel. Says that TV is very educational. Just think of all of the TV repairmen's children it has put through college. And Arthur came from such a rich family that they bought a boy for the dog, whereas Anthony grew up in such a poor neighborhood and a tough neighborhood that the good humor man used to come around in an armored truck. Folks, did you hear about the undertaker who signs all of his letters, eventually yours? And there was a picket and line, and there was a picketer, and he had a sign up that said, "Time heals all wounds, but time and a half does it faster." This is Glendora, a cheerful look at life. Keep the courage flaming. Boys and girls, Mr. Weil, who's the publisher of Time magazine and who's a senior vice president of Time Incorporated magazines, he's the U.S. publisher of Time, is here today to help you choose a good career. Hi, Mr. Weil, how are you?
Good, Glendora. How are you?
Oh, very good, thanks. Mr. Weil, would you just tell the boys and girls, first of all, about Time Inc.?
Well, Time Inc. is a company that is made up of magazines and HBO and some cable interests and does some movies too. So we're in a lot of different businesses.
Oh, it must be interesting. And then just tell the boys and girls what you want about being U.S. publisher of Time magazine.
Well, I have been doing this since May 1st. And before that I was in the newspaper business, but now I'm in the magazine business, and it's an enlargement of where I was before, because when I used to worry what was going on around the county and around the state, I now worry about what's going on around the United States and around the world.
It must be thrilling. It just must be thrilling. Mr. Weil, you were born where?
In Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And did you go to school there?
I went to grade school and high school there, and then went to college at Indiana University.
Indiana University. And what did you take as an undergraduate, Chip?
I was an English major and a Spanish and journalism minor.
Did that turn out to be a good thing?
Well, it has so far, Glendora.
It has. Would you recommend it to a boy or girl today?
I think very much of, I think very highly of liberal arts education. I think it gives you a chance to do a number of different things, and you can form your work habits later, but I think it's very important to get a broad-based education.
So that will help you, boys and girls. Louis A. Weil III, would you just list for the children what your jobs were out of college until you became the position that you are today at Time?
Well, after I got out of college, I went in the Navy as a naval officer for 3 years and spent those 3 years in Ethiopia.
You did. That can be a good, the service can be a good career start, can it?
I thought it was a terrific career start because it teaches you how to manage people. and it's like getting a graduate course in business administration.
Oh, wonderful. And then out of the service, you did what?
I went to work for the Port Huron, Michigan Times-Herald in the circulation department, where I helped distribute and sell newspapers. And from there I went to Lafayette, Indiana, and was involved as a personnel director. I spent some time in sales. I then became an assistant to the publisher of the newspaper, and then eventually became publisher of the Lafayette paper. I left there a number of years ago and moved to New York, to Westchester County, and became general manager and then president and then chairman of the Westchester Rockland newspapers.
I think that's wonderful. I remember when you were here, and I think it's great, boys and girls, the way you started right at the bottom and worked your way up. That you can't do it a better way, right?
Well, I think that's the only way you find out what's going on.
And then after Westchester, where did you go?
From there, I spent time on the corporate staff of the Gannett Company, which owned the newspapers in Westchester, as a senior vice president of planning and development, and then eventually went to its largest newspaper that it bought in 1986, which was the Detroit News, and became publisher and president of that newspaper.
Did you like that a lot, I bet?
Oh, that was terrific. That's the 6th largest newspaper in the United States, and we had a lot of fun.
Oh, I should think so. And then from there, did you come to Time Inc.?
Yes, I left there in May and joined Time magazine.
Louis A. Chipwild III, would you just tell the boys and girls how they might get started in newspaper publishing or magazine publishing today?
Well, I think the important thing, especially if you're a youngster, is to spend time not only reading but writing about things that interest you and develop those skills. Once you do that, on the newspaper side, you generally have to start at a smaller newspaper and work your way up, and that's pretty much true in magazines too.
But what fun to do that, isn't it?
I think that's where all the fun is. It gets harder as you get older.
Anything else you want to say to the boys and girls, Chip?
Well, I'd like to say just one thing, and that is there's no substitute for hard work.
Uh-oh.
That it is not easy to do any of this unless you're really committed to working hard at whatever it is you do. But if you like what you're doing, then it's real easy to work, and it's not so hard.
Well, in your case, the hard work was richly rewarded.
Well, the hard work doesn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah, and
but you enjoy doing it, and that's the fun part.
And they can be like you, where their hard work is rewarded. I think it's great. Well, Mr. Chip Weil, who is Louis A. Weil III, we want to thank you so much for trying to help the boys and girls. You were really nice to do it because you're as busy as anything.
Thank you, Glendora. It was fun to be with you.
All the best to you, Chip.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Boys and girls, this is Sheldon A. Good, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Sheldon F. Good Company in Chicago, a commercial real estate company, brokers and realtors. And he said that he would be on your program. Then he went back on his word. Sheldon Good, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Sheldon F. Good Company. The president of Greenwood Mills Marketing Company. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Fine, and how are you today, Glendora?
Oh, good, thanks. Tom, would you tell the boys and girls what Greenwood Mills Marketing Company is?
Well, Greenwood Mills Marketing Company is the marketing arm of Greenwood Mills Incorporated, which is a 100-year-old privately owned South Carolina textile manufacturing.
Oh, wow. And they manufacture cloth and...
We manufacture cloth. Today we manufacture denim.
Ooh.
And numbered amongst our major customers are Levi Strauss, the
Wow.
Company, Wrangler, HIS, Sears, Penny, etc.
Wow, yeah. Tom, what's the president of the marketing company do? What does that work consist of?
Well, it consists of directing the efforts of our entire marketing function, which includes merchandising plans, product development, our sales throughout the United States.
It sounds interesting, is it?
Yes, it is.
Tom, you were born where?
In Barnwell County, South Carolina.
And you went to school there?
I went to grade in high school in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then I went on and was educated at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and the University of South Carolina.
Oh, good for you, Tom. What did you take in college?
Electrical engineering.
Yeah, that's a good background, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You got to be pretty smart to pass that.
Well, I don't know about that, but you had to study hard.
Yeah, you do, instead of hardly study. Tom, just tell the boys and girls what your jobs were. Just list them for them until you became president of Greenwood Mills Marketing Company.
The first job I had after college was I was a bridge design engineer for the State Highway Department in South Carolina. I then worked for the Atomic Energy Commission at the Savannah River Project in South Carolina in a special laboratory section.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then entered into the textile business with a firm that was owned by Textron, going back to the days of Royal Little in South Carolina. And we manufactured in that particular plant wool. And we brought wool in the raw form and processed the wool all the way through all of the textile manufacturing and shipped out the back door the finished product, which would go to the various garment manufacturers in the United States. And I did that for quite some time, and then ultimately moved to Southern Pines, North Carolina, where we had our corporate headquarters. And I became the systems manager for the company, where I was in charge of all of the computers, billing, and shipping operations of the company. And spent about a year there, moved to New York City, where I became the marketing services manager for the whole corporation.
Wow.
And that dealt with taking the marketing plans and then developing from those marketing plans manufacturing plans to support them, and then dealing with all of the various customer support service departments in order to service the customers.
Yeah.
And then ultimately moved into direct sales, where I was the national sales manager for one of our divisions. And after doing that for a while, I became the operations manager of the company, which was responsible for all forecasting, inventory planning, things of that nature. And for quite some period of time also took on the responsibility of being the chief financial officer for the division.
Oh, that's it. You put in your time.
And then ultimately moved into being the general manager of the division. During this period of time, my company, which was known as Ameritron at the time, was subsequently bought by Milliken, that's Milliken and Company, who is also a privately owned firm and has marketing headquarters in New York City. So for quite some period of time, I worked with Milliken in various capacities, including being the general manager of the menswear double knit operation, and then ultimately the general manager of the whole menswear business, which included double knits, woolens, worsteds, textured woven products, all of this experience was in manufacturing fabrics that ultimately were shipped to the garment industry.
Oh, well, Mr. Tom O'Gorman, thank you ever so much for taking time to speak to the boys and girls. We really appreciated it.
Well, I've enjoyed speaking with you today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Oh, thanks a lot. Tom O'Gorman, who's president of Greenwood Mills Marketing Company, a chat with Glendora. Bye, Tom.
Bye-bye.
5, 4. Charles Kemper, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Executive Officer of Grand Prairie Co-op. He's going to tell you about his career. Hi, Charles. How are you?
I'm fine, Glendora.
Charles, would you just tell the boys and girls, please, what Grand Prairie Co-op, Inc. is?
Grand Prairie Co-op is a grain elevator that basically buys and sells grain and also stores and dries it. And we're basically a middleman between the grain farmer of the United States and the exporter of the domestic processor.
Oh, and as Vice President and Chief Executive Officer, what are those duties?
My basic duties are to hire the people that will be responsible for the everyday running of the company as well as the oversight of those people, and to take care of any long-term commitments we might need financially or in operating procedures.
It's a big business, boys and girls. It says here that the sales of $56 million. Is that right, Chuck?
That is right, Glendora.
Wow, it's a big business. Chuck, you were born where?
I was born in Moweaqua, Illinois in 1942.
And did you go to school there?
I went to high school there, and then I had 2 years of business school in Decatur, Illinois at a business college.
Very good. And what were your jobs up until the time you became VP and CEO of Grand Prairie?
Well, I served, my first job in the grain industry was as a business scale attendant at a small country elevator at Moweaqua, Illinois for 4 years. And then I had a 3-year managerial job at a small country elevator at Farmer City, Illinois. And from there I went to Savoy Grain Company at Savoy, Illinois for 10 years. And from that I took the Grand Prairie Co-op position in 1981.
Well, you must know everything about grain. Why do they call it an elevator, Chuck? Because where they store the grain. Why do they call that an elevator?
Well, basically, it's just a term I think's been coined over the years, but what a grain elevator is usually a concrete facility that's got concrete tanks that hold 20 to 30,000 bushel of grain in them. Most of them also stands probably 120 to 130 feet in the air, so
yeah.
You can see why it would kind of have the name of the elevator just due to the height, I think, as much as anything.
Yeah. Chuck, what advice would you give a youngster to start out on such a career today?
Well, I think any youngster, I would give the advice of getting their education, which would be high school and college if it's at all possible. And I think that from there, then to go out and search out whatever particular field they are in and take the time to give 100% when they get to that job. That's what most employers are looking for, somebody that's interested in the job and will take and give 100% to do that job right.
Those are good words and very sensible. We want to thank Chuck Kemper, Chief Executive Officer and Executive Vice President of Grand Prairie Co-op. Thanks for helping the boys and girls. Chuck, you must like him to take all this time.
I appreciate doing that, and good luck, kids.
Good. Thanks, Chuck. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Boys and girls, Mr. Daniel C. Hanna, who is the owner and the president of Hanna Car Wash International, is going to tell you about his career and see if he can't help you. Hi, Dan. How are you today?
Well, thank you for asking.
Dan, you got a big operation there. $50 million, 500 people, it says?
Well, we're really at about twice that much with 1,200 people now.
Really? Oh, I think that's wonderful, Dan. Just tell the boys and girls about Hanna Car Wash, would you?
Well, we just clean cars and make people feel better, and the car feels better after we clean it up, and it lasts longer, it looks better, runs better, uses less gas, and it's just terrific.
Dan, as president and owner, what does your work consist of to see if the boys and girls would like to be like you someday?
Well, I just wash a lot of cars and work real hard and try to treat our customers good, try to treat our employees good.
Oh, that's nice. Dan, you were born where?
In Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. And did you go to school in Portland?
Yes, I did.
And did you go on to college?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, where was that, Dan?
Well, I attended a number of different schools, and here in Portland, just State, and some of the other local schools.
Dan, tell the boys and girls what your jobs were, will you, when you got out of school? Up until the time you founded Hannah Car Wash?
Well, I just built a car wash and worked at it real hard, and then started making car washes for other people, and that's what we've been doing ever since. But we have our car washes representing our great country in 71 other countries. And we're cleaning up cars and trying to make people feel good, and so that the world will be a really better place to live.
Yeah, Hannah Car Washes in 71 countries?
71 countries.
Well, that's wonderful. Do you have any out here in New York?
Oh, sure, every place. Yeah, we probably have maybe 300 or 400 facilities in New York, and we provide the equipment and the process for entrepreneurs to operate and offer their business.
Dan, now you got about 30 seconds left. Would you tell the boys and girls how they could get started on such a successful career?
Well, I think that the secret of business is trying to enrich everybody's life that you contact, and if you have fun at what you're doing and you think that your goal's worthy and you really work at it, boy, it'll just really work out for you.
Okay, Dan. You were nice. I guess you liked the kids. You took time to talk to them.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dan Hannah.
Thank you.
Boys and girls, here's Thomas Burke, and he's going to tell you about his career and try to encourage you to have a nice, successful career like his. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Tom, will you tell the boys and girls what MACOM is? You're the President and Chief Executive Officer, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Well, MACOM is a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, you're number 459.
Right. And our sales are roughly $500 million.
Wow.
And we employ about 7,700 people worldwide.
Wow.
Most of our facilities are in the Northeast, but we have facilities in California and Arizona and England and Israel. So we have facilities all over the world.
Isn't that wonderful? Tom, what does MACOM make?
Well, we make products what are called microwave components and subsystems. These are products that are used in radar systems. They're used in aircraft for what are called electronic countermeasure systems. That is for protecting the aircraft against enemy attack.
Oh, this is for the military.
Mostly for the military. 80%
Yeah.
of our business is for the defense of the country.
Tom, as President and Chief Executive Officer, could you give the boys and girls a flavor of what that consists of?
As Chief Executive Officer?
Yeah, and President, what does your work consist of? See if they'd like to aim for that.
Well, I guess I'm the one that is responsible for running the company. Basically, I have responsibility for developing the strategy for how the company will grow and running the operations through an organization of people who report to me.
Yeah.
And, basically, my job is to assure that the company is growing and that it's making money so that it can continue to grow.
Oh. Tom, you were born in Massachusetts?
Yes, I was.
Uh-huh.
I was born in a town called Newton.
Newton, sure, right outside of Boston.
Right outside of Boston.
And did you go to school in Massachusetts?
Yes, I did. I went to grammar school and high school in Newton, and then I went to college in Newton. Also, it's a college by the name of Boston College.
Boston College, yeah, very good college.
Yeah, right. Where I received both a bachelor's and a master's degree.
Is that a Jesuit school?
That's a Jesuit.
Yeah. Well, then you got a very good education.
Yes.
Tom, in the last 30 seconds that remain, would you tell the boys and girls how they could succeed at a career today?
Well, I think the most important thing is to get a good education and to apply yourself in no matter what you do, whether it be in sports or whether it be in education or whether it be in accounting or science or whatever. That they just learn to apply themselves.
Apply yourself.
Yes.
Very good. Boys and girls, this has been Tom Burke, who is President and Chief Executive Officer of MACOM, and a chat with Glendora. Tom, you were a peach to help us out.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Everybody, welcome to Glendora, Cheerful Look at Life. Doug asked his father, he says, Daddy, what causes rain? And Daddy says, low pressure areas, cold fronts, warm, moist air, and the first day of your vacation. And Don says that he has no problem with his vacation. His boss tells him when he can go, and his wife tells him where. And this camping group was up in the woods, hopelessly lost in the woods. And one of the campers said to the guide, you said you were the best guide in Maine. And the guide says, yes, that's right, but right now I think we're in Canada. And Dana was asked by the boss, where are you going on your vacation? And Dana says, he says, I'm going to go to a place, he says, that's away from it all. He says, where nobody can find me no matter how hard they look. And the boss says, how about your desk? And you know what vacation is, folks? Vacation is great. You know, people get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and they drive for 100 miles to look for a sign that says home cooking. And David says the resort that he stayed at last week, he said it was so dull that the tide went out and it never came in again. And a tourist in Hawaii asked a native, he says, how do you pronounce it, Hawaii or Hawaii? And the native says, Hawaii. And the tourist says, thank you. And the native says, you're welcome. Did you know that Dick got a new compact car, subcompact car, and he was very pleased with it. He took it to Florida during the hurricane season, and he got 550 miles per gallon. Now, do you know what the people thought the first time it snowed in Atlanta? They thought, the first time it snowed in Atlanta, they thought that it was an explosion of grits. Knock, knock. Who's there? Fortification. Fortification who? Fortification this year, we're going to the mountains. Pete says that his father paid $6,000 for the wedding of his older sister. And then Pete says in amazement, and then they say the father gave away the bride. You know what vacation is, really? Vacation is the time of the year when they close the roads and open the details. The auctioneer says, sold to that woman with her husband's hand over her mouth. And Pete says that he's sure that his wife is going to live longer than he does. Why? Because she has 3 closets full of clothes that she wouldn't be caught dead in. Pat says that his wife should be a seismologist, you know, somebody who studies earthquakes. He says his wife should do earthquake research because she's the greatest fault finder he ever knew. And Priscilla bought a dress for $450, and the clerk guaranteed a fit. And surely enough, her husband had one. Now, Sid says that he always gives his wife the last word. And Sam says, you're lucky, mine never gets to hers. Stan accused his wife of not having a sense of humor, and she says, what do you mean I don't have a sense of humor? I have an official document to prove that I have a sense of humor. And Stan says, really? What? And she says, our marriage license. Steve says, his wife says that he's a big help around the house. And Steve's mother-in-law says, that's right now he's taking the baby's nap for him. Henry said that he and his wife had words. The problem is that Henry never got a chance to use his. This is Glendora, a cheerful look at life, folks, and keep the courage flaming. Who is the chairman, who rather is the general manager and chief executive officer of First Electric Cooperative Association, is going to tell you how he started his career and help you out. Hi, Alton. How are you? Well, good, thanks. After I get everything straight here, one syllable after the other. Alton, just tell the boys and girls what First Electric Cooperative Association is, please.
First Electric is the largest rural electric system in the state of Arkansas. We serve electric power to the rural areas. We have about 45,000 customers.
Yeah, how many miles would that cover? Gee, that'd be a lot of wire, right?
It has about 6,000 miles of line.
Wow.
And that translates into over 100,000 poles.
Jeepers. Alton, as a general manager and a chief executive officer, are those duties interesting? Do you enjoy them a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do they consist of?
Just the overall supervision of the association. We have roughly 4 departments. Our member services, which is our public relations, dealing with our consumers. Our engineering and operations, which carries on the day-to-day work as well as the planning and the designing of the new facilities. Our accounting division and our billing and supervisory division that gets out our monthly statements to everybody.
Alton, that sounds like interesting work. Very interesting work.
It's a very work. No 2 days are alike.
Alton, just tell the boys and girls, would you list your jobs before you became general manager and chief executive officer?
Yes, I grew up on a farm in West Texas.
You did? Uh-huh.
Of course, I've had all kinds of experience with farm work. I was assistant manager of a ranch in West Texas. Then I became associated with Lighthouse Electric Cooperative in West Texas. There I was in member relations work, which is public relations and sales. Later became general manager of that association and served in that position for 9 years before coming to First Electric in 1987.
Yeah, you must have started out pretty well at First Electric. How did you start in?
I came here as general manager.
As general manager, I see, and then you were promoted. Alan, in the 30 seconds that remain, could you tell the boys and girls how they might get started on such a nice career today?
First of all, you need to basically have your high school education. There are many careers within rural electrification. More and more, they require college education, but there are also line work, equipment operators, data entry clerks, riders, just many varied positions. And what we're going to be looking at is those that achieve well and are self-starters.
Yeah, who do a good job, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say to the boys and girls, Alton, while you have them right here?
Well, I hope that this is maybe giving them some focus on careers in rural electrification.
Yeah.
They can contact the Rural Electrification Administration in Washington. It's a division of the Department of Agriculture, and
oh, really?
learn more about careers in rural electrification.
Well, thanks for telling us that. Boys and girls, Mr. Alton Higginbotham General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of First Electric Cooperative Association. Elton, thanks a lot. You were a peach to help us.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye. I'd like to have you meet Mr. John Molyneux, and he is the president of Callard & Bowser, USA. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. John, would you tell the boys and girls about Callard & Bowser, USA?
Yes, I should be happy to. Callard & Bowser is a English candy company that manufactures primarily butterscotch and toffee. We've been making candy now for over 150 years, since the middle of the 19th century. We are owned by a large company in England called United Biscuits, and they make cookies as well as candy, and are very successful in this. We import the candy, or the candy is made in England and is all imported into the United States and distributed by my company into outlets such as supermarkets and grocery stores and drug stores, and that is my primary responsibility.
Oh, that's your primary responsibility. Boy, do you make me hungry. John, you have also to run your whole personnel here in the United States, right?
Yes, we market our product through brokers, and brokers are independent businessmen who represent us and act as salesmen for our products. And they are located all over the United States, and they approach the various drugstores and wholesalers and grocery stores and sell our product on our behalf.
Well, you're doing a great job, because I see that product everywhere now. It used to be kind of hard to find, but I see it everywhere now.
Well, that's a combination of us getting it out to our customers and a combination of our customers asking for it.
John, you were born where?
I was born in England in 1935, a number of years ago now.
And where did you go to school?
I went to school in England as well, to a boarding school. Of course, I was at school during the war, and as my home was in London, and some of the children may know London was under fire for a good part of the war, it was appropriate that I was at school outside London.
I see. And then what were your jobs up until you became president of Callard & Bowser, USA?
Well, after I left school, I went into the Army for 2 years and then joined a major corporation called Guinness, the brewers of stout or black.
Yeah, yes, right.
Yeah. Guinness, I worked as a brewer for Guinness for 9 years and then transferred to the marketing side and came to the United States and worked here for 20 years.
Did you?
Selling Guinness and building distribution for Guinness around the country, and also their other product, Hard Lager.
And then what did you do after Guinness?
Guinness owned Callard & Bowser at that time.
They did?
And I was asked to set up a company here to market and sell Callard & Bowser products, the toffee and the butterscotch, and I accepted that appointment, and so in 1978 I set up a company.
That's fun to set up your own company.
Yes, it was, and it was quite exciting and quite challenging, and subsequently been very rewarding.
John Molyneux, will you please tell the boys and girls how they could get started on such a nice career today?
Well, I think you have to start by spending a good deal of your school time seriously. I think you need to learn as much as you can in your early days. Certainly, if you do well at school, you have a chance to go to college. I didn't, in fact, go to college, and one of the reasons I didn't go to college was that my parents, frankly, couldn't afford for me to go to college.
Well, you were so busy, too, with the war and everything.
Well, that certainly...
You had to make a living.
That certainly made life difficult. But the other thing is, and I would impress upon all children, learn to speak the language well, learn to communicate, learn to listen above all other things. Remember, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. All too frequently, we don't listen. We like to hold court. When you listen, you learn, and when you learn, you have an opportunity to succeed.
Mr. John Molyneux, who is president of Callard and Bowser USA, we thank you ever so much for being on A Chat with Glendora.
It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it, and I hope some of the children will have learned something at least, which will help them in their future career.
Well, I can tell you like the children. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keith Safian is going to share his career with you and try to help you. Hi, Keith. How are you?
Fine, Glendora. Doing pretty well today.
Oh, good. Keith is the Chief Executive Officer and the President of Phelps Memorial Hospital. Keith, could you just tell the boys and girls about Phelps?
Phelps Memorial Hospital is located in North Tarrytown in New York, Westchester County. It's a 215-bed community hospital. We have an annual budget of about $40 million a year and something around 900 employees.
Wow!
Medical staff of 150 physicians.
And your work as President and Chief Executive Officer consists of what?
I'm responsible for the overall management of the hospital and ensuring that the patient care we provide is of the best quality.
You enjoy that a lot, don't you?
Absolutely. I find the job very challenging, very interesting, and I love it.
And it's your opportunity to contribute a lot to people.
Absolutely.
Keith Safian, you were born where?
In Brooklyn.
Yes, and you went to school there?
Yes, I did, in the PS 238 and Brooklyn Technical High School.
You did? And then did you go on to a school?
Yes, I went to college up at the State University of New York at Buffalo.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. And I went on to graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania at the Wharton School of Business.
Wow, you know, boys and girls, the Wharton School is top class. I also went to the State University of New York at Buffalo, Keith.
Oh, well, we have to see if we were classmates.
What were your, just list for the boys and girls, if you would, your jobs until you became president and CEO of Phelps?
Well, I had a series of part-time jobs, summer jobs while in college. My first one was in the post office, and I did market research after that for summers and part-time. I worked in the campus movie theater in college.
You did?
Yes, up at Buffalo.
Yeah.
My first job after graduation was as an assistant director at Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, good.
Which is a municipal hospital, or is, and a very large one. And
yeah, big one.
I then went on to New York University Medical Center, where I had a variety of administrative capacities, where I worked for 8 years, and then...
Is that a good place to learn about hospital administration?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I was also on the faculty in the healthcare administration program at NYU.
Oh, yeah.
And I did some teaching of graduate students, which was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. And in your last 30 seconds, Keith Safian, would you just give the boys and girls some idea of how they could get started in health administration?
Yes, there are a number of healthcare administration programs, undergraduate and graduate, and they're listed in the membership booklet of the Association of University Programs of Healthcare Administration. And it's a very interesting career, and it's one that provides great growth opportunities.
It does. The future's good?
I think so.
Yeah. Mr. Keith Safian, who is President and Chief Executive Officer of Phelps Hospital, we thank you for being on A Chat with Glendora and helping us.
You're certainly welcome, Glendora. Thank you.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye. Boys and girls, Mr. Gilbert Osnes is kind enough to share his career with you and help you get started. And he's the chairman of Gilbert C. Osnes Incorporated. And hi, Gilbert. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. And how are you today?
Good, thanks, Gilbert. Would you tell the boys and girls what Gilbert C. Osnes Company does?
We're in the business of crisis management. We doctor companies when companies get sick.
Oh, that's nice. And did you start the company yourself?
Well, actually, my company is the extension of another company that's been in business for over 40 years.
I see. And that was who, Mr. Osnes?
That was the George Morty Company, which became Grisanti and Galef, which became Grisanti, Galef, and Osnes, and now it's Gilbert C. Osnes and Company.
Well, good. I see that you moved it right along. As Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, what does your work consist of, Gilbert?
Well, we have a group of professionals in our firm who are all former CEOs of other companies. And we think of ourselves as company doctors.
Company doctors?
That's right.
And go in there and fix up the company. You were born where, Gilbert?
Beg your pardon?
You were born where?
Detroit, Michigan.
In Detroit? And you go to school in Detroit?
Went to school in Detroit.
Uh-huh.
Went to college at the University of Michigan.
Yeah. And what did you take as an undergraduate?
I took basically a liberal arts course.
Liberal arts? Was that good for what you're doing?
No.
Uh-huh.
It was a good preparation for life.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there are things in life beside business.
And Gilbert, did you go on to school after that?
Yes, I have a master's degree from the Harvard Graduate School of Business Administration.
Ooh, good for you. Tell the boys and girls what your jobs were, Gilbert, from the time you got out of Harvard until now.
Well, first I went into the Navy for a little over 3 years, which was, for me, a good experience in managing people. I was an officer in the Navy. Then I went into a family business in Detroit, which was in retailing. And when that business went the way that some family businesses go, I came to New York and basically started my career all over again as a buyer, and then a merchandise manager, and then moved into manufacturing and became very quickly the president of a manufacturing company.
Well, good for you!
Which was in trouble. And that really began my career in doctoring up sick companies.
Yeah, that's right. That was great. How you went and started over again and found what you wanted to do. I've got about 30 seconds left, Gilbert. Would you kindly tell the boys and girls how they might get started on such a career today?
Well, I wouldn't advise any of the boys and girls to look at a career in crisis management. I think the best thing that they can do is decide at one point in their lives what it is they really wanted to do, get a job with a company that could provide them with a good role model for experience in the way businesses are operated, and work hard and try and climb their own ladder for success, whatever that may be.
Well, that sounds good, Gilbert. Well, you were very nice. I know you're busy and you got a lot to do. You're nice to help the kids.
Well, I wish them all a lot of luck, but please, don't any of them come into crisis management. Get lots of experience first, and pursue other careers where I think that they can build their own experience base.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot, Gilbert C. Smith, who was Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of his own company. Thanks for helping the boys and girls on a chat with Glendora.
Okay, Glendora. Bye.
Bye. Boys and girls, Mr. Robert Rich Jr., who is the Chief Executive Officer and President of Rich Products, is going to tell you how he started his career and try to help you get started on such a career. Hi, Mr. Bob Rich. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Bob, would you just tell the boys and girls about Rich Products?
Well, Rich Products is headquartered in Buffalo, New York, and we're a $700 million company.
Wow!
We have sales of over $700 million, and we have plants in 36 communities around the country.
Oh, that's wonderful. What are some of your products?
Well, we manufacture several products, including Coffee Rich and a line of bakery foods, and several breads and roll products that are found in the in-store bakeries around the country.
You make eclairs.
Yeah, we do, and I'd like to tell you that all the calories have been taken out, but that's not altogether true.
Oh, those eclairs are delicious. And then tell the boys and girls what your work consists of to see if they'd like to aim for that.
Well, I'm president of Rich Products, and as such, I'm responsible for the welfare of the company, for the employees who work here, over 7,000 people who've come to work here.
Wow.
Also for the financial well-being and the new products that we introduce to keep our company healthy.
And Mr. Rich, you were born where?
I was born in Buffalo, New York in 1941. I'm 48 years old.
And did you go to school there?
I went to school in Buffalo. I went to high school here, which was very important because I have a lot of friends who are now business contacts. And then I went to college at Williams College in Massachusetts.
Oh, that's right.
Then got a a graduate degree in business from the University of Rochester.
You did in business administration?
That's right.
Oh, an MA?
An MBA in
Yeah, an MBA.
Right.
Oh, that's good. Over and over again, people have got that. That's pretty important to get an MBA, isn't it?
Well, I think it's important to get some background. My undergraduate degree in college was liberal arts, so in order to focus on business, I really felt I had to get some business courses.
Just a quick question. Is liberal arts a good background for a youngster these days?
Well, I think it is, especially for those who don't know exactly what they want to do. And at the time I entered college, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Right. And so that was a good thing because it gives you something of everything.
Well, it gives you a smattering of a lot of disciplines, and it gives you a chance to make a good decision on how you want to spend your life.
And after you got your MBA, what did you do?
Well, I started in our Canadian operation. We built a plant in Canada, and so I got to run the small version of Rich Products, and it grew very well. And then eventually I came over and became head of sales and marketing at Rich Products, and then eventually I became president of the company.
And you like the work very much, don't you?
I love it. I think you have to. It's just very important that whatever you choose for the boys and girls, whatever they choose, it's something that makes them happy. There's nothing worse than spending your life doing something you don't want to do.
Robert E. Rich Jr., would you just tell the boys and girls the last 30 seconds that remain how they could get started in a foods manufacturing career today?
Well, I think the important thing is to look around and at the various people who are looking for to fill jobs. The fast food industry right now is a great place to start, and whether it's one of the large chains or whether it's or one of the smaller chains, there's a great shortage of people, and I think that's a great way to get into the business and to make contacts. And like so many other things, that first step is so important. It's something you just have to stick with and have the stick-to-itness to go for the gusto and get the job. And once you get started, if you love it, you'll never look back.
Oh, that's nice. And the future is good.
The future is great. Happily, people will continue to eat food in our country, and we have a wonderful, safe food source, and it's just a nice business to be in.
Oh, that's nice. Mr. Robert E. Rich, thank you ever so much for helping the boys and girls choose a career. That was nice of you.
Thank you very much. Good to talk with you.
Stand by. Boys and girls, I would like to have you meet John A. Hellrick, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Hellrick and Bradsky Company. And John, will you just tell the boys and girls what Hellrick and Bradsky does?
We make baseball bats for all the Major League Baseball players across the country.
Whoopee, the Louisville Slugger, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that exciting? Baseball bats all across the country. And what does your work as President and Chief Executive Officer consist of, John?
My chief function is to see that the bats are made and to see that the ball players get the bats that they want.
Boy, isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Jack, you were born where?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky.
And you went to school in Louisville?
No, I went to school in Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, you did? And what did you take as an undergraduate, Jack?
I was a business major.
That's a good thing, is it, for the boys and girls to take?
It certainly is for a family business, and ours is a family business that's about 110 years old now.
Gosh, that goes way back to how many grandfathers?
Well, it was my grandfather that started the company in 1884.
And he made a bat?
He made a bat for a local hero, and that local hero went out and hit 3 for 4. That's how the Louisville Slugger got started.
What year was that?
1884.
1884. Isn't that terrific? And then tell the boys and girls, Jack, what you did when you got out of Vanderbilt.
I went straight to work for the family company and started in the bottom and worked in every location that I could so I would know what the whole company was all about.
Sure, that's a good way to do. And then did you get a promotion after a while?
Well, after about 15 years of working here, there was succession needed for the family company, and the family voted me in as president of the company.
That's nice, Jack. What do you enjoy about your work? Of course, I should think everybody would enjoy that, but what do you enjoy most about it?
Well, I enjoy working with the ball players a lot. That's fun.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us some of the famous ball players you met.
I guess one of my favorites would be Ted Williams and Wade Boggs and Babe Ruth.
Really?
Met all of them.
You know all of them?
Yes.
Isn't it wonderful? What was Ted Williams like?
Oh, he was a great guy.
He was?
I was real little when I met him, but...
Yeah. What do you remember best about him?
Oh, I remember playing pitch and catch with him, and I just thought it was the most world.
And did you use a Louisville slugger?
Oh, certainly. But I always wanted the broken ones that the players used.
You got a collection of those?
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Very nice. And what was Babe Ruth like? Can you remember anything about that?
No, I was a real baby when I met him. My father introduced me to him, but and I have a picture of that, but that's all I can remember.
Oh, isn't that great? And Bob's, what was he like?
Oh, he's a real nice guy.
He is very nice, huh?
Yes, and he knows his baseball equipment real well.
Oh, I think what a thrill to do that. Now, Jack, you're on the inside, and the boys and girls are waiting to go inside. They're on the outside right now. But what's the best advice you give them to go to work for a family business?
Well, my best advice is to make sure that you want a career in that company.
In that company?
In doing that particular thing. I really wanted to work in the baseball bat business, and it was very easy for me. But some other family members just were looking for a job, and that's very tough. You have to want to work in a family company to make it successful.
Yeah. Well, we thank you ever so much, Jack Hillard, for helping the boys and girls. You seem to like children because you took all this time to help them.
I just have a new grandchild, and
Oh, isn't that nice? So, we want to thank you, Jack Hillard, for being on a chat with Glendora. You were a peach to do this.
Thank you, Glendora.
You take care, and all the best to you, Jack.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Paul said to his wife, "Look, you've overdrawn the checking account." His wife says, "No, you've underdeposited." And Peter says that his wife has 2 closets full of nothing to wear. And Pat was asked, "What do you have in common with your wife?" And Pat says, "I don't know. The only thing I can think of is that we were married on the same day." And Bob says there's something about his wife in a checking account, a checking book. Once she starts one, she can't put it down. Ellen got up early in the morning. Well, she slept late is what happened. And she got up, and she had her head full of curlers, and she had on her old bathrobe, and the garbage truck was going by, and she was afraid she's going to miss it, so she ran out, and as I say, she had all these curlers in her hair, and she had this old bathrobe, and she had 3 bags of garbage, and she said to the driver of the truck, "Is it too late?" And the driver of the truck says, "No, go ahead, get in." Jane says the 4-letter words that bother her the most are cook, wash, dust, and iron. And Jerry said to Jason, "My wife doesn't understand me. Does yours?" And Jerry says, "I didn't know that she knew you." And Hal said that he met his wife at a travel bureau. She was out to get a vacation, and he was a last resort. And Hal says that nobody in the world cooks like his wife, although the United States Army comes pretty close to it. Rhonda said that she had a bad accident tonight when she was cooking, but that her husband ate it anyway. And Harry says that his wife's meals are not planned, they're premeditated. And Harriet, she puts popcorn in the pancake batter so that the pancakes will flip over by themselves. And Don says that he's getting better in his driving lessons. You know those signs that say 1 hour parking? Well, he's getting so he can do it in 45 minutes now. Folks, Hattie and all of her relatives, they were very excited, and they all gathered to hear the uncle's will. And so, as I say, there was a great deal of attention and excitement. And so the lawyer started out reading the uncle's will, and here's what the uncle said. Being of sound mind, I spent all of my money. And when Paul and his relatives gathered to hear their eccentric uncle's will, the lawyer read the following. He said, to my nephew, Robert, whom I promised to remember. Hi there, Robert. And Peter, boss, said to him that there must be something to reincarnation. After all, there must be some truth to reincarnation. He says, did you ever notice how all of the office workers seem to come back to life at 5 p.m.? And Pat gave, this is the advice that Pat gave to his 4 sons. One was, work like a dog, eat like a horse, think like a fox, and run like a rabbit. And don't forget to see your veterinarian every month. And did you hear about the absent-minded professor? He was in the revolving door. He couldn't remember whether he was coming or going. And Patricia and her friends, her girlfriends, belong to a hiking club, and they call it the Walkie-Talkies. This is Glendora, a cheerful look at life now. Folks, keep the courage flaming.